Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for February 7th. I can hear myself talking. Bear with us, the same technical difficulties we've got going on here.
They can't
All
read
right.
the first time, they can read the second time, okay?
That's not going to do it.
Always wondered what I sounded like when I was talking.
To do it.
We'll just go ahead and work through this, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order for February 7th, 2023. And if everyone could please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's not going to do it. It's that over there.
Okay, we will keep working on that over there. And Kim, do you want to call the roll for us?
Yes. I might call it twice. Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas. I have Councilmember Troutner on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. We are nothing if not resilient, and we are going to work through this. So next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Pat, do you have a change?
Yes, Your Honor. We have we need to add an excused absence for Councilmember Thomas to as item 8I. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a change to the agenda. With that, is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So move.
Second.
It was moved and seconded 4 times. Thank you. So that's a first, second, third, and fourth. And with that, all those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. I'm just going to say we're going to laugh. So this is a serious business meeting of this council, but at the same time, if you can't laugh at yourselves, I don't know how you make it through, right? Sometimes then you just cry. So we're going to laugh. We have some great recognition this evening. To start out with our Employee of the Year. So last week at our, they call it the Mayor's Breakfast, but really it's an recognition of all of our employees and the amazing work that they've done through the year. We were able to honor the recipients of our Employees of the Year, or Employees of the Month from 2022, and announce our Employee of the Year. Our Employee of the Year could not be here tonight, but I do want to read a little bit for you about him, and it gives a little bit of information as to why his peers selected him to be Employee of the Year. So Josh Bava from our police department, Commander Bava, was named our 2022 Employee of the Year. He was hired in July of 2007 and has had about 16 and a half years of service. He's worked in patrol, traffic, drug recognition, as a field training officer, patrol sergeant, street racing task force coordinator, patrol commander, and is currently our administrative commander. So you can see in his years here at the city, he's held many, many roles. Josh was nominated because he led a regional effort to reduce public safety impacts of dangerous illegal street racing and hold those who organize and promote those deadly events accountable. Something we're working on in the legislature this year, but Commander Bava has been looked to as a statewide and regional expert when it comes to working on street racing and the danger that brings for those activities. He implemented innovative strategies that revolutionized the way we address street racing and established partnerships with law enforcement departments across the region and became a recognized expert on this issue. In addition to that, Josh is a highly engaged leader, setting the standard in our department for mentorship, development, and care of his subordinates. He does outstanding work, and it was a very easy decision for him to be promoted to commander in 2022 as well. Josh is an exceptional human, and he serves the city in an exceptional way. So if we could all give Josh a round of applause for being our 2022 Employee of the Year. Okay, we're going to do that, see if that helps definitely a little bit. Perfect, thank you. All right, so as I explained there a little bit, every month our employees get together to recognize an Employee of the Month, which then that pool is then that's where the Employee of the Year comes from. But tonight we are going to talk about our February 2023 Employee of the Year, and I see her sitting there in the back. Excited to announce that Cheryl Lopez is our February Employee of the Month. Cheryl started working for the city as a temporary file clerk on March 24th, 1986. She was hired on full-time on January 1st, 1988 as an office technician 2 in the finance department, and was later promoted to an accounting technician and then senior accounting technician. Of the month. Thank you and congratulations to Cheryl. Would you like to come up and say something, or are you very comfortable sitting where you're at?
Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. Very, very much deserved. All right, we are going to move on in the agenda. We have a proclamation, and I will ask if Gwen Ellen Karsten, the Executive Director of KBAC, wants to join us up at the podium. I will go ahead and read the proclamation, and then Gwen, if you want to say a few words and have your have all of the people that are here tonight come up and do a picture. Whereas, since 1976, every United States president has officially designated the month of February as National Black History Month to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience. And whereas the observance of Black History Month began in 1926, when Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse Moreland sponsored the first National Negro History Week, the second week of February, and later in the 1960s as a part of strengths and success can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by the residents of our great city. And whereas African Americans have played significant roles and made lasting contributions to our city's history and the history of Washington's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to contribute to every aspect of American society, including business, education, medicine, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to remember the contributions and legacy of those who helped build our nation, advance the cause of civil rights for all Americans, continue to fight against prejudice to secure lives of dignity and opportunity for all, and to strengthen our families and communities. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim February 2023 to be Black History Month in the city of Kent, and encourage all residents to join me in honoring the many contributions made by African Americans to our city, state, and nation, and to participate in the many educational and inspirational events celebrating February 2023 as Black History.
Madam Mayor and council members, it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I would ask all my fellow Black Americans to please come forward and be here with us. Yes. And I hope we don't take up too much of your time, but I thought it was very important that we have a representation of just a few of our members of KBAC, our members of, Joey, help me, Eagles Nest, and for some of our folks just in the community. We have one of our business owners, Mr. Neil Robinson with Alpha's Kitchen, Soul Food, and all that good stuff down there on the corner. So tonight we would just like to say thank you for this proclamation, and thank you for the community in Kent, the many areas that we are trying to make sure that we are represented in as we grow and live here in the city of Kent. Of course, all folks know, or I hope everybody knows by now, that KBAC is the group that sponsors our annual Juneteenth event up on at Morrill Hills up on East Hill, and we're planning to have it there, although there's going to be some renovations and stuff going on, but we still are going to celebrate Juneteenth. And that's the time that we come together for everybody to come and be a part of our cultural experience, whether it's food, music, dance, whatever it might be. So stay tuned for June 17th. We have that date already. I'd like to thank all of our members, and especially my husband, Charles. Charles is here now. He's fully retired, and that means that he can get to do some of these things that we are always doing as our operations manager for KBAC. And tonight, we just want to take a couple of minutes to recognize one of our staunch members of KBAC, Miss Charmaine Boston. And right here in front of me, we have her oldest daughter, Bettina, and her grandson, Marcus, representing for her. Charmaine was a woman who cared about people. She was a woman who served and worked hard for the people. She is someone who is dearly missed in our midst. She was a backbone for KBAC. And we know that right now she's smiling down on this particular moment, and we're so thankful that her family is here to receive these beautiful pictures that we hope that they can hang on their walls and have a little bit more of Miss Charmaine. So for those of you who don't know Miss Charmaine, take a look at these pictures, and you might recognize this face. She has been in so many different events that we have, and she was one of the folks who really wanted to make sure that the city of Kent was doing the right thing. I remember her at this podium saying that all we need to do in order to get along and be one cohesive city is that if we all do the right thing. And doing the right thing does not take a lot. All it takes is a heart for people and a heart for service. So I, for one, would like to live up to what Charmaine left us. We're going to be doing the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is very hard to do because of our preconceived notions or the way we were brought up or how we've managed to navigate through our lives from day to day. But if we never try to do the right thing, then the right thing will not happen. So I implore all of you that are listening and all those out in the airwaves, please, let's all get together and do the right thing. So again, thank you so much for this proclamation. It will now go into our collection, and we are very grateful for that. Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. And we'd like to ask you and Representative Boyce and Councilmember Fincher to come and join us for this photo op. And if you guys and the other guys want to stand up behind, yes, please do so.
This is history, baby. I'm sorry.
Squeeze it in.
Let's make sure our sign works.
Fantastic. All right, ready? And 1, 2, 3. Great picture.
All right.
Got it. I'll take that job.
Council President Boyce would like to take a moment.
Yes, I'll just say, Gwen, I want to say thanks personally to you, Gwen, because you've really been the glue that really kept this group together for so long. And
Yes. Give Ms. Gwen a hand.
Thank you very much.
Let me see our PowerPoint.
one thing,
What?
Charles is not retired, but he's working with you. More now than when he worked before.
Yeah, we're gonna try and keep it.
Is that Charles?
I can't argue that. You're right.
We'll try and keep him real busy. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Very quickly, I would also like to say to the Charmaine's family, thank you for being here tonight. I want you to know that she means so much to this community. I can tell you that, I don't know how many times I have attended candidate events that KVAC has held, and she is the first smile when you walk in that room, always a hug, and would do everything she could to put people at ease. My husband came with me every year, and he asked me every time, is Miss Charmaine gonna be there? And I could always smile and say yes. So I thank you for sharing her with us.
Yeah.
And know that that impact and legacy will last forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not only did she have the hugs,
Just turn the speaker.
not only did she have the hugs and the love for you, but she also fed you. She fed the folks up there at the KPA, so all the kids up there. She was one of the ones who did the food for our Kwanzaa services over at my church here. She was just Red Rooster catering, and she was feeding everybody. And the food was good. They said she put her foot in, so it was a good evening. So she was just the kind of person who loved you, and I think that her food and her cooking.
Yeah, her love came through her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On for that, so this is a very ungraceful segue. I apologize for that. We're going to continue on with the agenda. Next item we have this evening are a couple of appointments, council, for your consideration to the Land Use and Planning Board. We have two openings, bringing forward Ben Reed and Justice Phelps for these appointments. Great balance here. Ben and his family live on Scenic Hill and have been here just a couple of years, but are very much involved in our community and looking for ways to be part of our city. Ben did Kent 101 when we were virtual, and one of the things we talk about when we go through Kent 101 is hoping that it is the entry point for people into that additional involvement. And so he's a perfect score on the accomplishments for Kent 101. Excited for that. Back when he was in middle or high school. Now an adult, graduated from college, and also looking for a way to be involved in the community that he was raised in. So really excited to bring these forward for your confirmation on the consent calendar. All right, the next item we have is community events. Council President Boyce, do you have some community events?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We got a couple things going on at the Show Accessible Center. So on Friday, February 10th, we got the Red Deer Rebels playing the Thunderbirds. We also have the Tri-City on Valentine's Day, February 14th. We'll also be playing concert-wise, Ice Cube, Bone Thug, and Harmony. Okay? They will be here on Saturday, March 4th. So there are still a few tickets available. And also you can go to the www.accessorshowwear.com website and get a chance to see different types of events going on. So that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the spring recycling event coming up over at Colleen Park on March 4th. So it's a good time to check the list. You'll be getting that in the mail. There are lots of things that you can recycle, and a lot of the hard to recycle things that you sometimes have to pay to recycle, you can take there for free. So check out that list. That will be arriving in your mailbox. And for those who enjoy our Spotlight series, and for those who enjoy good music. If you're a fan of Sinatra, Matt Dust sings Sinatra is on March 16th, and if you are a fan of Ray, we have Ray on My Mind. So Ray Charles, the 25th of March. Those tickets are available online. So kentlaw.gov will get you to the site. Good music, right at hand.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. Next item on our agenda is our Economic and Community Development Report, and joining us this evening is Bill Ellis, our Chief Economic Development Officer. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. How is everyone? I'm here to present the ECD update for the quarter, and I have this. Great. So, hi everyone. We'll lead off with the new King County grant. It's been several months since I presented on commercial affordability as a topic. We actually applied with the City of Seattle with the National Development Council for a grant to support commercial affordability, specifically to help cover the costs of pre-development work for community organizations, businesses that were trying to gain hold of space. We were denied that application from the state. It was very oversubscribed. I think there was $34 million in grants and $500 million of requests. So, having said that, I feel like some of the themes that we talked about were not, or are still moving forward in the region. King County has put forward $25 million in grants for racism as a public health crisis. There are different aspects to these grants. Some of it are capacity building, some of them are general grants for the community service, some of them are for small businesses, and some of them are for physical infrastructure. The physical infrastructure one, I think, most relates to commercial affordability. And I'll be coming back to ECDC committee to talk more about covering the pre-development costs with some of the funding that we've talked about with commercial affordability from our ARPA funding. So I just wanted to highlight that. These applications in the meantime are available to businesses and community organizations, and they close on March 28th. In a similar theme, I want to just highlight that the Flex Fund that the city has contributed to with the National Development Council is still open. They're still receiving loan applications up until March 15th. To date, there have been over 26 funded applications, 84.6 of funded applicants identified as diverse, with 34.6% of women, 26.9% Asian, 15.3% Black African American, and 11.5% Hispanic. That's about $2.138 million so far lent in Kent, thanks to the lower interest rates and support from the City Council. There continue to be made more loans closed. Active applications under review right now, and several CDFIs in the Flex Fund bucket. There will be more funding coming available for low interest loans. Shift from that update to just zoom out for a moment to the macroeconomic figure. I don't know if anyone saw the business news on Friday, but the job number of 515,000 is kind of astonishing, knowing that the central banks have been trying to explain with all their means available to them, the amount of hiring. Economists expected 190,000 jobs. The jobs report was 515,000 nationally. In our local area, this is expressing itself too, but interestingly different from the national story, so I wanted to highlight that. The 737 is ramping up hiring, both in Renton and in Everett, so there's more than 10,000 Boeing jobs trying to be filled right now in our region. So manufacturing is up, but overall in our Seattle metro area, which is one labor market, of course, job postings are down 24% as tech companies have been laying off. So sort of a change in a long storyline here of tech and manufacturing going in opposite directions in hiring. Locally, tourism is still not back, although hiring is robust in leisure and hospitality. I'll come back to that in a moment. So we have a variety of figures that don't quite add up. They're not moving in the way that they're supposed to. So we have lower unemployment, but there are now fewer businesses in King County since before the pandemic. There's actually 6% fewer businesses in King County. Now the data on this is difficult. You see my data source there is something weirdly called Womply. It's actually a private data source from Harvard University, and Bill and Melinda Gates kind of publicized. I don't actually have the same access to, I know I get asked this a lot, how many businesses closed in Kennetville? We don't really know. So what I do have is just third-party data sources that are publicized at a King County level, and just saying year over year how many more businesses are open. And so in King County, it's treading water, and you can see there's some variability in the last several months, but just slowly picking back up with the number of small businesses. But this is a hopeful sign. This is a really, again, back to the good news economic report. We're not in a recession. We talked about that 8 months ago or so, and I'm not a Bengali. No crystal balls here. But small business revenues jumped up 30%. So small business storyline is one of recovery and doing better. Consumer spending is up in all categories except for entertainment and recreation. That's still down 24% in our region. Leisure and hospitality job postings up 11%. Manufacturing job postings are up 4.8%. We use that to talk a little bit about something this council did more than 3 years ago, which is Rally the Valley, where we paused the construction on new industrial buildings. And we said as a city, for tax base and for job reasons, we would like to consider what should we do with our codes to shift more in the direction of manufacturing. So 3 years later, it's interesting to note the city of Vancouver, Washington, in December 2022, walked on a moratorium on all warehouses 100,000 square feet. They said it was inconsistent with their economic development plans, that the amount of jobs to warehouses, the density of it was too low, and the wages weren't right, and we needed to pause. And so they're now pausing 3 years later after the city paused almost 4 years ago. So I think you've seen this as a trend all along the West Coast. And it's interesting that they're picking up on some of the same themes that we talked about in terms of the size of buildings and so forth. Since we passed our new codes, thanks to the hard work of our former long-range planners, Danielle Butzig and Haley Bunsteel, we've had 7 major projects, one of which I should caveat was not subject to our new design standards, came in before that and had a development agreement. That's on the former Boeing Space Center lands. But we had 6 major projects that did. So about 119 of the 159 acres that have redeveloped in the last 3 years were subject to our new design standards. See, it's generated a lot of permit fees. It generated a lot of square footage. This is a very large number, even taken within the region and nationally. We've been doing a lot of work in the permit center. We have been doing a lot of work as a city generally. We have been ground the center point where, well, literally we're over at Center Point, there's nodding at the name of that, where a lot of funding has been flowing into our warehouse and industrial area. So it really was a chance to give a facelift to our business district. And I just wanted to show, again, just to revisit years ago, what did that look like? This is one of the last buildings built before the new design standards. On 212th and the West Valley Highway, there's our monument sign, and you can see the new building absolutely torched that nice pine tree there with all the glaze off the building. Really dried that out. You can see the type of door that we would permit and say, sure, that's how you get in and out of the building on 212th, our major corridor. This is how a lot of people perceive the Kent Valley. They said our industrial area is a wasteland, and we don't really care about it, and we don't care about what people do there. I think that's the other message that it sends. It's a worker dignity point. It's like these jobs, they just don't have that much value. We don't care. They're an afterthought to all our other considerations about truck movement and so forth. But after the changes, and these buildings are now under construction, lots more light, lots more air, lots more visibility. So the exciting things that we've watched is to be watching now 2.2 million square feet come out of the ground differently and to the new standards. And just want to point out that there are better worker amenities for people who will move into these buildings, greater light, bicycle racks, different sidewalks, and a lot of the things that are in permitting now, they're actually taking note of this, and they are pivoting what they're proposing to really focus on workers, to focus on the human environment, to target types of companies that are more employment rich. So while we didn't necessarily go the direction of mandating only small buildings, we did do some tweaks and changes that I think are starting to bear fruit. And why do we care about this so much in Kent? Well, Kent has as much industrial buildings as the east side, the city of Everett, and SoDo combined. Okay, over the last, this is from the fourth quarter of 2022. There's been very strong absorption. Even with that 2.5 million square feet, we're getting a lot of pre-leasing action on a lot of these new buildings. That means that demand is keeping up with the new construction in Kent. Our vacancy rates in Kent are still low, still below the level of replacement that you would have normally with normal business turnover. All the new product is being absorbed, and our rents continue to climb, even with all this new construction. I know this is a little small to see, and you can see that Kent is compared to Kent Valley, how it does. Interestingly, this one group, JLL, actually points out how much of the new buildings are built for manufacturing on spec and how much of it is built for regular warehouse. You see a lot of zeros next to manufacturing. Almost none of it is built on spec to serve manufacturing, even though that the vacancy rate and the demand availability for manufacturing is high. Almost all of it is for warehouse distribution. What I will come back to council with in the next few weeks is more and more news of who's signed leases in these new buildings in Kent. Because more than, I think we'll find when the figures are all in, about half of all of that new construction will be in manufacturing, despite the prediction. And I think that at the time when we changed their code, aerospace is growing, space is growing, and we're going to see a lot of new leases soon. We already have seen one company from SoDo has moved into town, Algas, at the Boeing Space Center. We have seen, we're already, of course, expanded to over 200,000 square feet. There's going to be a high-profile lease soon to be announced over on 212, and another one for the building under construction right across the way as you come into 212. And those will be another 250 to 300,000 square feet of, I think, manufacturing leases. So what's going on here? I just wanted to remind everyone several years on that we need to continue to remember that our industrial areas are places for people too, and that we have made a movement with that with our design codes, and we have moved the market to actually start supplying buildings that have more amenities for workers. We also need to continue to think about how we're complementing that with our new parks impact fee and our other things that are in our plan for gateways and wayfinding. As our business district increases in the value of what it looks like, what are we doing to mark that as we come in and out? We need more transit solutions. There's been a lot of discussion over 10 years for transit solutions for workers in the valley. King County Metro's come back to us and started asking questions. Hey, how do we figure out routes here? It's kind of a conversation that we've had year after year after year. It's very difficult with an industrial land use area of one sort of use to make bus routes work. And there's been different proposals of technological solutions. None of them have quite taken. So I just mark that and say that it's not an easy problem, but it's an ongoing issue. And I think it's also important to continue to remember that we need outlets for employees to meet with and mix with each other, and with residents. One thing that I'm hearing from the companies that are moving in is they want to get to know our schools. They have employees that want to mentor and work with young people. So having good places to steer the people who work here to engage with our residents and meet with one another is still very important. And I will continue to note that there's very little to no supply directly for smaller manufacturers, especially with the path to ownership. So from the valley to the East Hill, sort of a big news story for those of you. Councilmember Larder, yes. That building is finally sold to someone who intended to purchase it. Rhino Investments from Nevada, owner of 3 million square feet in the country. It's owned by a small family shop. I spoke with the CEO, Mr. Sanjeev Chopra of Nevada, and he said he intends to make this building a winner again. He would like to break it up into new retail uses, hopefully a grocer, and so he has actually purchased it with intention. He deliberately chose this vacant former grocer box, not just one of a portfolio of 164 like the previous ownership of Lone Geiger. He said, okay, we'll take this too. He's purchased it with the intention of fixing it up and putting it back tenants into that building. I think that's, I know, I feel excited too because we've been asked about that for a very long time. And I think it goes to show sometimes, things are kind of divorced from the reality of your economy. Certain things happen idiosyncratically to the one property. It's a very large one. It's been vacant a very long time. It hasn't been because there hasn't been demand for retail and tenants in Kent. It's not that the community didn't have the purchasing power to fill up that box again. It has been sort of the resistance of a larger play of an individual property owner. And so I just wanted to mark that and
kinds of exciting news going on. I think that all of us, the most asked question ever is what's going on with the Top Food site. So really excited to see that happening. I also can tell you, if you all haven't been driven down West Valley lately, the Rally the Valley buildings that have gone up they're breathtaking. It is such a difference from what we have seen in the past, and it really shows that the amount of time that was spent in the thoughtful planning and the pushback and the really hard decisions and the conversations that occurred do make a difference when that planning is done thoughtfully and with intent. So if you have not been down there, anyone take the chance to drive along West Valley. It really does look very different, and cannot wait to have the announcements for some of these new companies. To Bill's other point about the engagement with schools, I have the opportunity to go out and visit businesses with Bill and Michelle, and it is a very common question. How do we get involved? How do we mentor? How do we build our workforce? How help our high school students learn those skills so they can come in and go to work. And so it's conversations I know that you and Michelle are having on a regular basis with our employers, with our school district, and really grateful for starting to build that pipeline for that workforce development. So, Councilmember Fisher.
Thank you. Any update on the Kaiser building?
Kaiser Permanente, no, they have not updated. They have been very quiet for a very long time. Sorry.
They still own the property. We do know that.
They do own the property. I suspect, and it's only a suspicion, so is that with telemedicine and some of the changes that have happened in the medical office since they purchased it, it might be influencing conversation about what to do with the property. So I have no special insight.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you. Next item on our agenda is reports. So just for everyone's information, each one of the council members that sits up here serves on committees, not only here at the city, so this council meeting and our internal committees, but also represents the city at the regional level. It is extremely important that our voice, the voice of Kent and its residents and businesses, be heard in those conversations. All of the things, if you're not at the table, your what's for dinner, come to mind. And I can proudly say Kent is at the table in every one of those spaces because of the work that our council members are committed to, in addition to sitting here for these meetings. So now's an opportunity to hear about some of those meetings. I will kick it off with a couple of regional updates. We had our SKIP South King Housing and Homelessness Partnership meeting last week. On the agenda, we got a report out from Burt Consultants about the affordable housing inventory dashboard that they are building. So they have been surveying South County and all of the participating cities to build a database of affordable units based on income level, and that dashboard will be available for people to take a look at so we can monitor and take a look at what types of housing and what income levels are available in South County as we go forward. And all of the cities are working on things like their comprehensive plan updates. At that meeting, I was also reelected as vice chair. Mayor Nancy Backus will continue to serve as chair of that group. Had an opportunity to go out and walk Clark Lake Park with Executive Constantine. A week or two ago, we received some grant funding from the county. As you all know, that final purchase of the roof property to make that assemblage whole, it is an amazing park and will be only more amazing now that the city owns that. And just for clarification, I did see some comments on the story on social media about the city buying it just to sell it to build apartments. That is not happening. That is a park. It will stay a park. It will always be a park. And that was the purpose in compiling that grant funding and city money over a couple of decades, so we can protect that natural area. Two last things. I also had a chance to go up to Everett and celebrate the rolling out of the last 747. Sitting there in that hangar that is massive, watching and listening to the stories of how that plane came to be. The granddaughter of the primary designer was there at that event. And all I could think about is how many Kent families played a role in that plane over 4 or so decades. Council President, you worked in Everett for a while.
That's part of it, yeah.
Made that drive up there, and I'm thinking generations of Kent families were a part of the history of that airplane, and it's done everything from passenger travel to driving the space shuttle, or or flying the space shuttle. A pretty amazing event, and as we were sitting there, voice came on and said, "You've been listening to me narrate," and out walked John Travolta. That was a surprise for the day. So, great event and a great way to honor the legacy of aerospace here in the Pacific Northwest, and knowing that that's also building on that space legacy that you heard Bill touch on. My final report is a couple of trips to Olympia in the last 2 weeks. We'll have a couple more next week, but really working hard with our legislators. This is a long session, but something like we have never seen. There have been more bills introduced, I think, in this last couple of weeks than we have ever seen. So I want to say thank you to all of the staff here at the City of Kent that is answering emails from our lobbyists night and day. I am really getting emails at midnight on Sunday because we're trying to work through those things. Biggest issues being tackled are around housing, and what does that look like as we, as a state, tackle affordable housing, but also making sure that our legislators are acknowledging the differences between our housing stock here in the City of Kent and, Council, you guys heard about that at operations. What our graphs look like as far as affordability versus different cities. So making sure that that's being acknowledged in the legislations that is being passed. And then public safety is the other big topic. So I was down yesterday to testify on the Blake fix, and that is whether or not the state chooses to legalize controlled substances or continue to find a way to get people into treatment, and sometimes that is through a court system, right? Sometimes that is what it takes to get somebody to recognize they need treatment. That is kind of the position that we're taking, that it needs to be encouragement, but then also consequences, compassion, and accountability can reside together, and that was the testimony that I provided yesterday. With that very long report, apologize for that, I'm going to look down to Pat Fitzpatrick for our CIO report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Just a few things here. Just so you know, our next session of Kent 101 starts on Thursday night, so we're excited to kick that off. It will be in person, and I think we have good sign-ups for that. That will go every week for 8 or 9 weeks.
And graduation.
And graduation. So we're looking forward to starting that. The recruitment for the HR director continues. We're having success in getting applicants, and the mayor will be reviewing applicants for that position soon. The other thing I want to note, a couple of budgets ago, council committed money to the King County Uplift Program for garbage removal. I don't know if you've driven on Kent Kangley lately, but I drove in today, and I literally did not see a piece of garbage. The crew's been out there for the past 3 or 4 days, and they're doing amazing work, so that's proving to be a big success. So kudos to the council for supporting that program. And then for tonight, we do have an executive session with action afterwards, and I estimate it'll take about 25 minutes. That's it.
Thank you, Pat. The Uplift program took a little bit to get off the ground, but we are seeing results, partnering with King County on some workforce development, folks that were formerly homeless and working and gaining job skills and working to clean up trash and graffiti around the city. So it's been a good partnership. Excited about that. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had our workshop, the operation meeting, the Operation Public Safety meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. A couple things we talked about. One is the ordinance. We have our board and commission meeting, right? So we look at making some modification to have those be remote. It all doesn't qualify to be remote, but the chair would have the opportunity to decide whether the meeting should be remote. So we hope to bring that back to our council meeting on the 20th to approve, and then I think it probably go into effect sometime toward the end of March, early April, right before it become effect. So it's a good thing. Allow people to continue to be part of the board and commission, and also have an opportunity to do these meetings remote. At the end of the day, we're really trying to make it feasible for everybody to participate, and we know remote meeting works. So it'll be up to the chair to make that final decision. Also, we talked about we had a quick intro into our comprehensive plan updates, and really our comp plan really is a North Star, right? Where we want to be, in 20 years. So we are looking at some of the development code to be rewritten. what we're looking at now, our growth target is about 10,200 homes and about 32,000 jobs, what we look at in the next 20 years or so. So we need to prepare ourselves to make sure we do have homes and jobs and all this stuff for people to stay. So great presentation, and also there'll be an opportunity for the community to get involved in community engagement as well too as we go through this process. So be on the lookout for information so you can participate and be part of the solution. During our workshop, I had a great presentation. Really, we're talking about ADU, right? ADU is accessory dwelling unit. I'm going to read what some of the things it does. It's also referred to as mother-in-law apartments. ADU is self-contained resident unit. It is an accessory unit used to single-family home. An ADU is located on a parcel with a primary single-family home. In a single-family home, you can pull an ADU on the back of it, right? It also contains basic facilities need for living independent, for like kitchen and bathroom and so on. So we had a great conversation talking about that. Kent started in 1995 for us looking at the process for ADU. I think we got maybe 20 plus ADU in the Kent area now. We received a grant for about $80,000 that we worked with a consultant and really just trying to figure out what it's going to look like when we got through. So we got a lot of input from the council member on some of the suggestions we were talking about around like the maximum size of a ADU. We talked about parking, owner occupancy, impact fees, size, and all that stuff. So great conversation. So there'll be a lot more conversation going on for ADU, and it really is another way of getting housing, right? We already know there's a shortage of homes in the Kent and the Puget Sound area, and also and everybody can afford a very expensive home. So ADU is another way to really try to get into a home and get settled. So great presentation, and I think that's all I have. So I'm going to start to my far left, and I'm going to start with Councilmember Show.
Thank you, Council President. I serve on the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice Committee, and at our last meeting, we were going over all the bills that are going through the legislature. So the Blake decision regarding drug possession, vehicular pursuits for the police departments, and gun violence prevention laws. Of course, all of those things have likely changed by now, so it was just really an overview at the beginning of the session. I also serve on the Parks and Human Services Committee, and all good news at our last meeting. We approved a new HVAC system, like an upgrade for the HVAC system, which is great news. Hopefully it can be have an impact on us here in council. We also approved funds for the SKIP program, so those dollars that we have been putting away and saving for affordable housing projects. This is the first grant round, so $317,000 going to 2 different projects in Burien. That is in our packet tonight as well. And then the last one was accepting that $2 million from King County for the Ruth property at Clarkley Park. And that's our council. Not apartments, no.
Thank you, Councilmember Show. Councilmember Court.
Thank you, Council President. I serve on Growth Management Planning Council, and we had our meeting. I reviewed our work plan for this year and the schedule of our meetings. We also went over urban growth area expansion policies and programs, and we reviewed Affordable Housing Committee's recommendation, and we'll be voting on that in March if we can get most of the members on board. If not, then if we move forward in May, we're just cutting it close because cities need to get on with their plans. So we'll be working on that for the next month and a half or so. I also serve on a Domestic Violence Initiative Regional Task Force. We have not met since our last meeting, and I'll still serve as the chair for Puget Sound Coordinating Agency Advisory Council, and we'll be meeting next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Court. Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you. I serve on the King County Aging and Disabilities Advisory Council, and we have not met yet. We'll be meeting this coming Friday.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutner, she is on the Zoom team, and she's having some technical issues, so she's going to report out at our next meeting. Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you, Council President. We had the MID meeting. MID is Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Council, and we had a very interesting meeting. We talked about 4 grants that have been approved for emerging issues. So these are innovative ways of tackling problems that have come up, that are arising now and recently arise. They're looking, those 4 grants are going to do a variety of things. They're looking at workforce issues. They're looking at increasing the workforce for BIPOC, LGBTQ, and people with disabilities. They're looking at some of the fields where we have shortages in, such as counseling, how to increase that. It's innovative ways of doing that. Looking at attacking the fentanyl and opioid problems in the schools, and also making sure making sure there is counseling available that is both linguistically and culturally relevant. So it was very good to hear about those programs. You can find more information on that if you go to the MID, which is one of the King County programs, to the minutes for that MID meeting. We have Public Works, which I chair for that committee. I mentioned last time how a lot of the work that we do is done with the aid of grants. So you heard me mention the recycling events earlier, Salmon Recovery Project, and Meet Me on Maker Street, all had to do with grant funding that they were able to secure additional dollars for through the grant process. We also had a meeting about speed limit changes. So some of the neighborhoods will see changes to the speed limit. Some of that is just to true up what is in the code to what the sign says when you see it on the street. Some of them are actually decreasing some of the speed limits, so watch for that. Arts Commission, this is Arts Heritage and Science Week, and so we've been having meetings with all of the different legislators for Kent, but also not only Kent, for the wider, mostly South End area. So our neighboring cities have also been on those calls. And I think, KCD, Kent Conservation District, remember voting ends, this is a special election, voting ends on Valentine's Day the 14th. Many of you would have received your ballot in the mail. If you didn't, you can go to kcd.org, and that ballot you do need to fill out and mail in. Print out and mail in. So that's kcd.org, and again, you have until the 14th. That is it.
Thank you, Councilmember. I want to say I also said on the Pixel City Association meeting, so our meeting is tomorrow, so I'll report out on that next meeting. With that said, we all done, Madam Mayor. I'll turn back over to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work that the council is doing to make sure that we are represented at the regional level. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, which we do not have any this evening. Item number 7 is public comment, opportunity for the public to provide comments to the council. Kim, do we have any speakers signed up?
We do not.
All right. That brings us down to item number 8, our consent calendar. The consent calendar is a compilation of items that council has addressed at those committee meetings that you heard them talk about: parks, public works, operations and public safety, and economic and community development over the last several weeks. They've had an opportunity to have presentations, discussion with staff, ask questions, and the items that have moved out of those committees without controversy are on the consent calendar. We did have a change to the agenda, and so that brings us to a consent calendar of items A through I. Council President, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar item A through I.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 9 is other business, and we do not have any this evening. Item number 10 is bids. We do have 2 bids. The first one is rectangular rapid flashing beacon crossing improvements project award. Say that 2 or 3 times fast. And then we have a presentation or a bid for the 2023 Railroad Quiet Zone for Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad crossing improvements. And I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director, Chad Buren.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. First item, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. This is a council member Fincher, Public Works Committee Chair Fincher noted earlier, grant-funded project where we're providing islands, protective islands, and rectangular rapid flashing beacons for 4 locations throughout the city. This was a grant through the state and would improve areas on Central Avenue, two areas on Central, right near Kent Memorial Park, and just south of Novak Lane near Carpenter Brothers. This is an area where there really isn't a place to cross between James Street and all the way up to 228th right now. And then up on the East Hill near the post office on 240th, just east of Benson, and then south of 256th on 104th, between 256th and 260th. So they're near the top of towns. Kind of that area. So we had 10 bids received on this one. So it's a good indication. We're very excited to have that many bids. And we did receive from Global Contractors LLC. The engineer's estimate was $1.2 million, bid just under $940,000, and the grant to help cover the cost of $1,163,000 from the State Department of Transportation. So excited to have this one available to us.
Council, any questions for Chad? Okay, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor, I move to reward the Rectangle Rapid Flashing Beacon Crossing Improvement Project to Global Contractors LLC in the amount of $939,933.50, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Chad. Next one.
Next one, the 2023 Railroad Quiet Zone BNSF Railroad Crossing Improvements. And last meeting I was here to bring a fencing contract for the areas north of James Street, south of Willis Street. This is the next section of improvements between Willis and James, which would provide fencing throughout downtown, and then also approach improvements at each of the crossings. We've talked about the need for increased maintenance with regard to the quiet zone, and that'll be an ongoing cost of the quiet zone. We talked about that over the years. One of the items that's come up in our negotiations with Burlington Northern and the agreement that we signed with them to get access to the area, to areas on the tracks. They also have included a provision in the agreements for the city to take on the responsibility for any damage to the crossing gates and or crossing equipment at the intersections. That's been a long-standing railroad responsibility. As part of the quiet zone, they've asked that we take on that responsibility. We've had similar agreements that have been signed throughout the state. Bellingham recently used to be the quiet zone. We talked to them, and they've signed a similar agreement. Renton added a new crossing, the railroad crossings, and they signed a similar agreement. We were able to negotiate with them and agree to, they would provide labor, we would provide material replacement as these issues come up. We don't necessarily see this as an expensive cost year in and year out, but it could be a cost of something dramatic happen. So again, just an ongoing cost of the quiet zone is something we thought we should discuss with council as we're moving forward with the project. That said, we did receive 5 bids. The low bid was for just shy of 1.5 or $1.45 million. Engineer's estimate of $1.8 million. And this is from the same contractor, Global Contractors LLC. We've not dealt with them in the past. However, we did talk with other agencies who have worked with them in the past, and it's been very successful. So we think we're moving forward.
Any questions? Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we are building this arm crossing thing, then if they get broken, like they're stuck down, then can we fix that?
Yeah.
Without having to call them?
They do get, we call those arm strikes. They happen from time to time. Most of the time when they're stuck down, they don't actually get hit. And the railroad does come out and fix the issue when they're stuck down. But if it gets struck by traffic, we would have to pay for the materials replacement.
Okay, but my question is if we can operate them.
We cannot operate.
Okay, dang.
And we don't want to operate them.
That's liability of the railroad.
Councilmember Fincher.
Is this actually one of those things where even though we pay for it, which we will get the money back, because we'll apply to for the grant funds, but that we pay for it and they actually do the work, the railroads do the work on it?
Yes, we would pay for the materials, they would pay for the labor, and they would bill us for it.
Any other questions? All right, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor, I move to award the 2023 Railroad Quiet Zone BNSF Railroad Crossing Improvements Project to Global Contractors LLC in the amount of $1,448,693 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Quick comment, Madam Mayor. Every time I think about Councilmember Dennis Higgins. So somebody need to reach out to him and kind of keep him up to speed on what we're doing. His legacy around his continue to live. So
I actually called him, so he hopefully was in on the big presentation that we did last time,
awesome.
last month.
All right. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will tell you, I do believe if we were in charge of the crossing arms, we would do a better job of keeping them functioning. But for clarity, there are small signs on those crossings that say if they are down, they were stuck down yesterday. Please call the railroad. They are responsible for getting someone out there to get them fixed and operational.
Everybody got those numbers now, just.
I don't have the numbers saved in my phone, but they are posted at all of those railroad crossings.
Can't miss it.
All right, that brings us down to item number 11, which is executive session. This evening, council will be discussing 2 items in executive session. First one, current or potential litigation as per RCW 4230110, and the second one, collective bargaining, RCW 4230140. Council will go into executive session, deliberate, and receive information on these items. There will be action following, but we do ask that everyone not presenting on these items, please step outside. You're welcome to wait. It'll be about 25 minutes. Council will come in. There will be two pieces of action at the end of that before the meeting is adjourned. If you are going for the evening, thank you for joining us. And with that, we will go into executive session for approximately 25 minutes. council has come out of executive session discussing two items, one around current or potential litigation and the other around collective bargaining. We do have action on both of these. Council President Boyce, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is on the.
On the current or potential litigation?
Yes. So yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city attorney or designee to sign all documents necessary to prosecute, resolve, or collect any claims or litigation maintained by the city against opioid producer, distributor, or other defendants, and to report the status of the same to council from time to time.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And for the viewing audience, I should have set that up a little bit better. This motion is in relationship to the opioid lawsuits that the city has entered into with many other cities, counties, and states across the country in regards to our opioid epidemic that's happening. And as these lawsuits are beginning to settle, our city attorney needs to have the ability to sign off on those agreements with the agreement back that there will be a report out to council as those start to settle and we start to see that funding. The next item is under collective bargaining. Council received a presentation and will be voting on the ratification, is that the correct word that we're looking for? Of two of our bargaining units, both Teamsters and AFSCME, have spent the end of last year in negotiations, were able to come to agreement with the city, and before council are those contracts. So we have two separate motions. Not sure, Councilmember Larmer, you want to go first?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I move to authorize the mayor to sign a new 3-year labor agreement with Teamsters Local 117, effective January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025, and to amend the budget as necessary to implement the agreement's terms.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Councilmember Ford, do you have a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize the mayor to sign a new three-year labor agreement with AFSCME AFL-CIO Local 2617, effective January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2025, and to amend the budget as necessary to implement the agreement's terms.
All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. That brings us down to the bottom of our agenda, which is adjournment. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you, Council, for all of the work that you're continuing to do. We're now halfway through the month of February, so it's crazy that the year's going by so fast, but mostly all good things. So with that, enjoy the rest of your week, and we are adjourned.